everybody. Today is March 16th, 2017, and in less than a month, one operating system from Microsoft will be going out of support. Yep, Windows Vista. Windows Vista was released back in early 2007 to the general public, and Vista has been highly known for the bad things that it's had going for it, such as being very slow, not being very compatible with existing software, and just tons and tons and tons of other things that's been criticized over. Like, for example, the overreaching of user account control, and I could just go on and on and on. But today we're going to take a moment to look back at Windows Vista and just look at some of the good things and some of the bad things about it. So we have Windows Vista in a virtual machine. I'm going to start this virtual machine up, and let's just go ahead and have a look here. The boot animation is very similar to XP, and we can't ever forget this. Of course, the sound sounds a little glitchy in this virtual machine, but yeah, we will never forget that beautiful Vista orb that always popped up and shined when you start up your Vista computer. And the sidebar, which normally takes forever to load, and sometimes your gadgets are not always in the place that you left them. Yeah, just little things like that. So back in early 2007, Vista was criticized for a lot of different things. But one thing that made Vista stand out was just how beautiful it was. I mean, back in back in that time, we had this flat colors with Windows XP. Had the blue taskbar, the green start button. No really special animations. Like when you close out a window, just close out immediately. You saw no sort of animation or anything like that. Clear top being disabled by default, so your text look all nice and blocky, like you're in the 90s or something. Just things like that. And we moved to Windows Vista, which has a very glossy interface. It comes with Windows Aero in versions higher than Home Basic. It's the first version, I think the first version of Windows to introduce Seago UI as the system UI font, whereas Windows XP had Tahoma and I think Trechbit MS, however you pronounce the other one, as the two different fonts. Tahoma being on the taskbar and throughout the operating system, and the other font being the title bar fonts for your Windows. But yeah, Vista was very shiny and very pretty. And it took a lot of hardware back then to run a machine like this. Stepping from a machine that, from XP, which didn't require much of anything at all. I mean, you could easily run it on a Pentium 2 without any problems, to, Vista, which had, this is one of the things that Vista got heavily criticized over. And I personally think Vista was a little ahead of its time in the department of graphics UI, because it took, the graphics card requirements for Vista were pretty high back then. You had to have a pretty decent card just to run it, which, could cost you a pretty decent amount of money back then in 2007. Also, Windows Vista required a lot more RAM to run, and I think Microsoft even got sued over what was stated as minimum requirements. I mean, for example, on 32-bit Windows Vista, they state that the minimum recommended RAM is 1 gigabyte. Go ahead and run Windows Vista on 1 gig of RAM and see how slow it runs. Yeah, this machine here has 3 gigs of RAM, and I personally have more RAM allocated to this virtual machine than I do, let's say, my Windows 7, Windows 10 machine, simply because of the fact that Vista is a memory hog. It's just a memory hog. But let's just say, for example, open up a couple of things, and Let's just see here. One thing about Vista, and of course it doesn't show up very well because we're on a virtual machine, but if you were to look at Windows Vista and Windows 7 Aero side by side, you would notice that the Vista, when you close out Windows and things like that, there is it's more smooth and things like that, which also took up more resources. Also, the gadgets. Look at the gadgets that go in the sidebar over here. For example, the CPU meter. You'll notice how, if you look at a 7 machine and a Vista machine side by side, and you look at the CPU usage gadget, you'll see how in Vista, the gauge hands were more fluid in movement and not like this. In Windows 7, it wouldn't actually just constantly be fluid in movement like it is in Vista. Just a few things I mentioned. Windows Vista also, Vista really is sort of a half and half between XP and Windows 7. It was, it has, if you look at the control panel, for example, it has a Windows XP style control panel. This is practically the same as it was back in Windows XP. You had you had the category view, which in Vista they called control panel home, and you had classic view, which of course in XP was called classic view. And one thing I couldn't stand about the Vista control panel was if you're on a lower end machine, it took forever for all these icons to load. You had to sit there and wait for them all to load, and it's just things like that would bug you about Vista. Let's just say, for example, let's try to think of something here. Let's go ahead and run command prompt as administrator. And of course we have user account control. Now in Windows 7 and newer versions, user account control was fine-tuned where you had 4 different modes for user account control, more or less 4 different sensitivity modes. You had disabled and you had your 3 sensitivity modes. In Vista, it's a little bit different. So anyways, there's the the command prompt. And speaking of which, let's go and go to user accounts, user account control. Look here. Before even getting there, you have to click on. You have to accept the UAC prompt. And here's what you have. You have one option: on, off, on, off, on, off. No in between. This is either you have it full blast or you have it completely turned off. And this is one thing that Vista got heavily criticized over, was UAC prompts, being a little oversensitive, which led a lot of people to simply just turn them off. You gotta accept the prompt so you go back in and turn it back on. But anyways, so that's the control panel in Windows Vista. Let's look at the UAC prompts. Again, this is the control panel again, I'm sorry. But let's just see. I'm trying to think of some things that were new to Vista. Okay, I got some. The games, for example. Let's see. Here we go. Windows games. When Windows Vista was released, we got a whole new set of Windows games, like your Free Cell, your Spider Solitaire, your Solitaire, your Minesweeper, and all of those. You see, they were all released, essentially re-released with new and improved graphics to them. I'm just clicking away until I hit something, of course. Oh well. But yeah, the games were another thing. And for those of you who like Windows Media Center like me, Windows Media Center got refreshed in Windows Vista. And of course they got refreshed again in Windows 7, and that's when it got abandoned. We'll run through the Express setup, why not? So this is Windows Media Center in Windows Vista. And it too pretty much takes in a lot of Windows XP Media Center 2005's UI and makes it more graphical. That makes it more, gives it more eye candy, and of course requires a better graphics card to utilize that eye candy. It also got a new set of sounds, which some of which were carried over into Windows 7. Let's just say, for example, we'll go to Settings, and let's see, General. Yeah, Windows Vista and Windows 7 Media Center are similar. So this is about Windows Media Center. Go back to the main menu. You can see how, just trying to think, for example, all the options were just right in the center. In Windows 7, they made this text bigger. Actually what they did is, see, in Windows Vista Media Center, they use Sego UI Bold, which actually is Sego Media Center. That's what they call it. It's actually a separate font in Media Center, but it's essentially the same thing as Sego UI for the most part. They used Bold for the center interface, and for the side they use standard Sego UI, whereas in Windows 7 and Windows 8 Media Center they used Sego UI Lite, and Start was removed from the main screen, which I think, it kind of depends. I think the Windows 7 Media Center is a lot easier to read if you're looking at it on a TV screen than Vista. Just trying to think here, for example. Just a couple of things to do. And of course, Windows Vista comes with a lot of beautiful pictures. Anyways, if you want to go back, we'll go ahead and exit Media Center. This does us a brief look at Media Center. But another thing about Windows Vista to note, and oh, look here. Okay. Help make Windows better. This little thing here that would run in the background. It's Windows Customer Experience Improvement Program. Yeah. Windows Vista. You really think Microsoft cares about you anymore? Yeah, this little application that sits there and runs in the background. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. So now we're in the Task Manager. Which one to exit that, by the way. Now that we're in the Task Manager, let's go and look at the Task Manager. User account control. Now, see, by the way, in Windows 7, I think if you have it set to the default setting, it will not prompt you for things. It's simply like this. The Task Manager is very similar to Windows 7, of course, this is moving off of Windows XP, by the way. You have the Resource Monitor here. And of course, if you never use Vista, Windows Vista and Windows 7 are very, very similar. You can pretty much call Windows 7 Windows Vista with a big service pack, essentially, because that's kind of what it was. Again, this is the Resource Monitor. Let's see, just a few little things, like, for example, like by default it's always on top. That's how it was in Windows XP. Just a brief look at that. Close out that. Let's look at Resource Monitor a little bit more. And this is sort of where Windows 8 got its new Task Manager that was also carried in Windows 10. They took from Resource Monitor and combined it with the Task Manager to make one. This, instead of having two different things, you have your Resource Monitor and your Task Manager. They combine everything together, I do believe. Yeah, it's definitely been a while since I've really poked around Windows Vista. Go ahead and close this out. Another thing about Windows Vista is it was the last version of Windows to be, I would say, a fully packaged Windows. Now, of course, if you have Windows Vista Ultimate, you have the Ultimate Extras, including Dream Scene, where your desktop background can be a video. That was pretty cool, but it was definitely a resource hog. It utilized your video card a lot more than just having this would, which in turn increased power consumption, and which in turn, if you're on a laptop, meant higher battery consumption. So, anyways, back to the fully packaged Windows. What I mean by that is, if you go into the Start menu and just look at things like this, you have, of course, Welcome Center, but you have Windows Photo Gallery, Media Center, Media Player, DVD Maker, Calendar, Meeting Space. Now, in Windows 7, they omitted a lot of things like the Photo Gallery, the Movie Maker, and things in favor of Windows Live Essentials. So that's what I mean by fully packaged Windows. In Windows 7, to get these features back, you had to download Live Essentials. Whereas in Windows Vista, it's all there. You have, just look at all the different things that it came with, for example. And of course, the Movie Maker. This was, I think, the best version of Windows Movie Maker ever made. Now, it's not the most stable, but it was definitely nice. And guess what? This is what I use to do Computer Channel videos all the way up till this day. Let's see, Windows Movie Maker, you can run it in Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1, and Windows 10 just fine. There are actually installers out there to where you can install it and run it, and that's what I use to do my video editing, because it's far better, I think. For example, here is Movie Maker and on the host machine. This is what I use to do my video editing. This is the start template for Computer Channel videos, and this is the start template for CubeComp MTDX, or formerly ByteGeek MTDX. This is that, for example. So yeah, that's one thing I still use to this day from Windows Vista is the Movie Maker, which is known as Movie Maker 6.0. Now, of course, in Windows 10, if you launch About Movie Maker, this is what you get. It shows your version of Windows, but it shows Movie Maker 6.0. Anyways, back to the machine. Yeah, Windows Live Movie Maker it's never been great, and Microsoft has officially, I don't know if you've been aware of it, Windows Movie Maker and Windows Live Movie Maker are kind of a thing of the past. They're no longer really supported. They haven't really been working on a new version. Supposedly, they're going to release a version of Movie Maker for the Windows Store, and I'll be curious to see how that works out. But this is the Live Movie Maker, and you can see how crappy it is. I only use this for doing time-lapse videos where I shrink things down and make them very fast. That's all I use that for. Everything else I use in the Vista Movie Maker, because it's far superior, because you have the timeline, and of course you have all sorts of, you can go in and fine-tune a lot of different things. Moving on, let's look at some other things like the photo gallery. And of course, Windows Live Photo Gallery builds upon the Vista Photo Gallery, which I still like the old Vista Photo Gallery. I wish I could run it in Windows 10, to be honest with you. Let's just see. One thing that the Vista Photo Gallery lacks that Windows Live Photo Gallery has is the ability to straighten photos when you edit them, when you fine-tune photos. And again, these are some of the pictures that Vista comes with, and I tell you, Windows Vista comes with some beautiful pictures. It really does, which I'll show you some here shortly later in the video. So this is the Vista Photo Gallery. Another thing will be the media player. Well, actually, first the DVD Maker, which Windows 7 is very similar. The DVD Maker there is very similar. And DVD Maker is something they took out of Windows 10 and I think Windows 8. So this is the DVD Maker, which I think was a very, very handy piece of software. Now I've done some experimenting here, and I think you can get DVD Maker to run, but you have to self-supply the DVD codec for it to function. Otherwise, it won't work. The Windows 7 DVD Maker will give you an error message saying there's no codec provided. The Vista one will actually run, and you can actually go as far as to build your movie, and then go to finish it, and then you get an error message. But this is the DVD Maker. This is something that came out in Windows Vista. Yeah, Vista came out with a lot of neat and interesting things that got some of which have carried over into Windows 7. I'm going to just go and open a few other things. Let's open a bunch of Explorer windows, shall we? There's Control Panel. How about? I'm going to show you something else here. If I can get it to do it. I gotta get more things up on the desktop here. I don't know if I can get it doing or not, but what I mean is it will start grouping applications like XP did. Just gonna keep trying this out. Not sure why it's not doing it yet. I just keep opening random things. Come on. Oh, well, I can't get it to do it, but close all these out now. Oh, and by the way, what do you think of this? This is another thing that came out when is this the 3D flip. One of the many parts of Windows Vista's eye candy. Close all this stuff out now. Now, of course, the animations would be a little bit better if it was on an actual machine, not a virtual machine, but yeah. Close all these different things out. I think of some other things to focus on. Let's say, for example, Windows Defender. This was something that came out in Windows Vista. And when Vista was released, you could also download this on Windows XP. And up until Windows 8, Windows Defender was not necessarily an antivirus program. It was sort of a half and half. It wasn't fully an antivirus. It wasn't fully like antivirus protection, but in Windows 8, Windows Defender officially became antivirus. Which essentially means in Windows 8, Windows 10, you don't necessarily have to go out and buy a third-party antivirus program because Windows Defender is already there and doing its job by default. So this is Windows Defender, and I think a lot of people seem to have mixed opinions on that. Let's look at some more different built-in applications. Oh, here's a good one, Windows Media Player. Windows Media Player 11, I to be honest with you, I like Windows Media Player 11 more than I like Windows Media Player 12. We'll just go ahead and choose Express Settings for now. Windows Media Player 11 was not as fast as Media Player 12, but there were some neat and interesting things that were in, Media Player 11 that got, taken away in Media Player 12. Now, I think a lot of this stuff here is on the public domain, but I'm not going to play it. Actually, I might go play some music from Incompetech just to test out this right quick. Okay, here's some royalty-free music from Incompetech. I'll go ahead and play this one here. This is one I commonly use in videos on QCopy and PDX if I do any sort of music, background music for whatever reason. This is also the music that is featured in the channel trailer for that channel. Now watch this. That I was looking for. Return to full mode. And you can see it is prompting to use this. Do you want the Windows Media Player toolbar on your taskbar? Choose yes. I'm going to go ahead and choose yes. And look here. Had this convenient toolbar right there on the taskbar. Whereas in Windows 7 and later in Windows Media Player 12, let's say for example, this is Media Player 12. You have this pop down mode here, which is also, it's in the Vista Media Player 11. You have compact mode. This is the compact mode. for Media Player 11. Anyways, there's a look at them side by side. I'll get that on back here in a sec. So that's how they look side by side. And here's how they look in regular mode side by side. In full mode, rather. Come on, here we go. I'll go and introduce Media Player 12 here in just a second in full mode. Let's just see. So that is Media Player 12, which yeah, is still in Windows 10. And there's Media Player 11. Now, of course, in Windows 7, Media Player 12 takes on this Aero style interface a bit more. I don't think it does it quite as much as Media Player 11. And I actually have managed to run Media Player 11 in Windows 7 before, which I might actually have to try this out in Windows 10. Because, I'll be honest with you, even though Media Player 11 is not quite as snappy and fast as Media Player 12, this is the key thing I like about it, is that toolbar it's so convenient placed right there on your taskbar. So that way you can get easy access, to controls and things like that. With you can do all sorts of different things with it without having to minimize what you're doing. So that's a look at the Windows Media Player 11. Now here in Vista, I think we still have the Internet Explorer 7. I'm not sure. I might have updated it. Nope. Yeah, Internet Explorer 7. This is the IE that came with Windows Vista. And no, we're not setting as default. And of course, this is an unsupported version of Internet Explorer, by the way. And also, by the way, the latest version of Internet Explorer that will run on Windows Vista is IE 9. And look here, that's brand new Windows 10 devices. Yeah, they want me to ditch this machine and go get a brand new Windows 10 machine, which, if you're using a Vista machine, you really should upgrade to something newer at this point. Now, if you have a good computer, why not upgrade to Windows 10? I mean, which, by the way, if you have a Windows 7 key laying around you're not using, you can still do a free upgrade to Windows 10. But in Vista, you have to. In Vista, you would have to either A, do a clean style upgrade, or you can upgrade to Windows 7 and then upgrade to Windows 10. But anyways, back to the point here. Now, one thing about Vista I liked was the icons. In Windows 7, which by the way I cannot do Aero Snap because that wasn't a feature yet. That came out in Windows 7. We'll look at, say, for example, the icons. I always liked the Vista icons more than I have the 7 ones. The glass style, the Aero glass style folders. I thought they were just really pretty looking, and also the colors used in Windows Explorer. I personally like them a little bit better. That's just my opinion, anyways. Trying to see some other things. Oh yeah. I'm trying to think of every possible thing I can think of at this point. Let's see. Again, back to the pre-bundled software. You have your calendar, contacts, mail, for example. That was bundled in. Of course, in XP it had Outlook Express, and now it's Windows Mail. Meeting space. I never use that. Let's see what it does here if it even launches. I don't even know if it's going to even launch or not. Oh well. Oh, there it goes. No, we're not going to worry about it. Oh yeah, let's not forget the Welcome Center. This is what would show up by default on your Vista machine when you booted it up. And what's funny is on the first run, you couldn't turn it off by default. You had to reboot your machine, and on the second run, then yeah, you could actually go ahead and turn it off. But of course, you had these shortcuts and all these different things and such, which this is like one of the first things that one will probably disable in Vista when they clean installed it. Yeah, Vista was well, you could consider it a fully loaded vehicle in a way. It was just loaded with all sorts of bells and whistles. In Windows 7, they got rid of a lot of these bells and whistles in favor of Windows Live and things like that. Some things just simply were not there. But one thing that is definitely okay, a couple of things that are definitely not in Vista that are in Windows 7 are this. Let's attempt to open Windows Fax and Scan. You can see no items match your search because Windows Fax and Scan was not available in Windows Vista Home Premium. They thought back then that home people did not have a need to fax or scan, apparently. Which makes no sense. In Windows 7, they reintroduced it back to the home version. Also, if we go to Backup and Restore Center, one thing that Vista does not have that Windows 7 does have, at least Vista Home Premium doesn't have that Windows 7 Home Premium has, is the ability to create a system image from Backup and Restore. And in Windows 8, they sort of, I think 8.1 is when they, did away with this, but in Windows 10 they reintroduced it. I think it's called, let's see, you Backup and Restore Windows 7, and this is available even if you did a clean install of Windows 10. And you can see I use this. This is something that I use to back up my RAID strike configuration. But I don't actually do an image, but I do use the Windows backup functionality. And here's a link to System Restore. Oh, user account control. There's System Restore. Anyways, going to get out of that. And some other things that we'll look at are accessories. The calculator wasn't really much any better than Windows XP. The nice shiny calculator came out with Windows 7. Windows 7. I'm sorry. This was essentially the XP calculator, just real bland and basic. That, along with Paint. You had the XP style Paint, which I did not really care too much for. Considering the Windows 7 Paint that was also carried over into Windows 8 and Windows 10 is so much better. They done fantastic with this. And Paint is something I use quite a bit. I use it quite a bit for various different things, and the Windows 7 redo of Paint was just incredible compared to what you have here. This kind of paint here has not changed much since like Windows 95. Yes, guys, when I was like 4 or 5 years old, I was playing around with Paint back in Windows 95, so I remember exactly how it looked. And not too much has changed over the years, which is why the Windows 7 redo was just so nice. Anyways, go back to accessories again. Try to think of some more. Some other things were introduced, such as snipping tool. That was one. Yeah, snipping tool, which makes it a lot easier to take screenshots. Now, of course, I'm going to probably miss out on some things here. Let's see, WordPad. Oh, yeah, that looks very bland. Let's see if I can find the one in Windows 10. I think this was redone. Yeah, I do believe this we got to redo Windows 7 to look a lot like this with the ribbon and such, to mimic Office, Microsoft Office. It's funny. Yeah, Vista was sort of like XP, but it had a shiny new package on it and introduced some new features. But there were just some things about it that would make you leave you scratching your head, wondering like why didn't they update this? Like the WordPad, like Paint, just things like that. And also, for example, in the Start menu, this is not to power off the machine. This is put your machine to sleep. This is the default setting. This can be changed. You can go into power options and change this, but this is another thing that never really made sense to me was, especially on a desktop install, like you have to go over here and then choose shut down. In Windows 7, of course, they return that back to, they put shut down back over here, but you can change that, by the way, in Power Options. But let's launch a few more different things. This is the calendar. And I think it's about time we're going to start focusing on some other things, like some of the things that Vista got criticized over, which I already mentioned some, but I'm all going to mention some more. Let's see, Windows Update. Windows Update closely mimics Windows 7. Just trying to think of a few more things I can focus on. Let's look at some more utilities. Like, okay, in Vista, you still had the classic style printers. Of course, in Windows 7, they introduced devices and printers, which looks like. I'm going to pull it up. And for some reason, in Windows 10 on my machine, it takes a little while to get to initialize everything. But this was the classic style of printers. Trying to think of some other things. Oh yeah, in Windows Vista they come out with the new programs and features. Whereas, in XP it was called add or remove programs, and when you launched it you had to wait for it to index everything before you could do one single change. You'll be sitting there just patiently waiting for it to initialize and show everything. Whereas in Windows Vista it would index, and while it was indexing, if you already found the thing you was looking for, you could go in and uninstall it or whatever you wish to do with it. And of course, in Vista Ultimate, they released BitLocker. This is another one of the things that came out in Windows Vista. I can't, and of course, guys, I'm not going to cover every single thing. This is already getting to be a pretty long video, but yeah, this is just a look at the control panel again. Which, while we're in the control panel, let's go ahead and look at. Oh, and finally, yeah, here, guys, this is what devices and printers looks like. I have no idea why this takes forever to launch in Windows 10 on this particular machine. But of course, devices and printers came out, and I'll compare them side by side. Yeah, we'll go back to that. Oh, I keep forgetting it's called printers in Vista. So in Vista, this is essentially what you get right here. You have your options for add a printer and things like that. And in Windows 7, they introduced add a device, add a printer. They combined devices and printers all into one single window, which I think is a pretty good idea. Pretty handy. You have your options to add a printer right here, or add a device. Over here you have your options for add a printer. Anyways. Oh, and another thing. Guys, I keep coming up with things every time I turn around. Personalize. Let's see, for example, in Windows 10 and Windows 7, Windows 7 and later on, if you want to change your screen resolution, you would just right click your resolution. You would right click and choose screen resolution, or display settings, I think. Yeah, display settings. I'm sorry. But here you have to go personalize, and then you have to go to display settings. And also, in display settings, you get the classic Windows XP style UI here. Whereas in Windows 7, okay, this is Windows 10, so we got the modern UI. We got this in Windows 10, but in Windows 7 they revamped this and make the controls a whole lot more user intuitive. Make configuring dual displays and such a whole lot easier. We're going to go out of that. Yeah, there's just so many things. For example, the screensavers that came out in Windows Vista. For example, bubbles. This is one of the ones I liked. I like bubbles. Yeah, the screensaver's got a nice redo in Vista, and there were some transformation packs and such where you could backport these to Windows XP. And there were a lot of different programs out there that were written to give Windows XP a Vista style look. I used them back in the day, and that way you could give your XP computer a nice new shiny look without upgrading to Windows Vista. Let's just see. Look at a couple more. Yeah, they all got different. And of course, and this is like the Windows logo one. If it's going to work. You had this, and the Vista logo will pop up occasionally. Let's wait for it. You can see how it has fade in and fade out. As you see, there's the logo. It's going to fade back out. That was, even things like that were a step up from Windows XP, where you just had the Windows XP logo just randomly pop around the screen. And yeah, new screensavers, new games, new UI. There's all sorts of new eye candy. So, anyways, back to what I was doing. I know I'm sorry I'm all over the place, guys, but yeah, I just keep thinking of things every time I turn around. I think of something else to look at. So go back to administrative tools. And one of the things that Vista got criticized over a lot was the services that ran in the background. In Windows 7, they did seem to correct a lot of this. And with Windows Vista, we had a whole lot of new services that got introduced. I'm trying to think of it, for example. Here we go, tablet PC input service. This service is totally unnecessary in probably 90% of cases. Description: enables tablet PC pen and ink functionality. Okay, well, why is the service running? Why is it not set to manual? Of course, in Windows 7, they do change that. It's not set to start up with your machine. So you have these all sorts of different services that are unnecessary, that are running in the background, that are utilizing resources when they're of no need. So that's the services. That's one thing that Vista got criticized over. And again, when Vista came out, it was all of this eye candy and all these services and all these features and such required lots more RAM usage, required a lot more GPU power, just all sorts of different things. So, and it's especially affected laptops. Laptops back then were not very powerful. And the hard disk, oh boy, they were slow. So Vista would run very slow on laptops from that time period. Not all laptops, but a lot of them did. For example, my Dell Inspiron 1525 that I've used for so many years. The big reason why I got it as a $40 trade-in. And at the time, it was only 3 years old. It was a base in Inspiron 1525 with 1 gig of RAM, an 8 gig hard drive, and Windows Vista Home Premium. And boy, did that thing run slow. The client was like, this thing runs very slow. I just want to go and get me a desktop, and she wanted a desktop. And ironically, she went and she bought a Windows XP desktop off of me and traded her Vista laptop, which I'll never understand. But I offered several times. I was like, ma'am, I said, we can add some more RAM to this. Just add some more RAM, maybe reload Windows on here. We can make this run a whole lot faster. But she was like, no, don't worry about it. I don't have a desktop. So I got this shiny, almost new at the time, Inspiron 1525. The machine was well taken care of. There wasn't a scratch on it. All the manuals and discs were included with it, by the way, too, guys. So yeah, Vista's resource hog behavior is sort of what got me my Inspiron 1525 machine back in 2011. Get that. But yeah, all these different things running in the background. Which again, this was improved in Windows 7, by the way. Again, I'm trying to think of some other things to mention. This is getting to be pretty long. It's late. Let's go and look at the pictures I was talking about. So yeah, with a shiny brand new operating system, Microsoft had to introduce some nice shiny brand new pictures for use as a desktop background and things like that. Because you have to think of the time, 2007, Windows XP was already, it's the early 2007, Windows XP recently had hit its 5th year birthday. And I'm referring to the RTM launch date back in October 2001 for XP. XP was over 5 years old at the time, and a lot of the images that were included with XP were not very high resolution. So if you had a nice big monitor on your XP computer, a lot of times your desktop backgrounds would not look clear if you use a stock background that came with XP. So again, in Vista, they had to come out with a nice shiny new package of photos. We'll start by looking at the sample pictures. And of course, these are just a few of the sample pictures that you'll see alternating over here in this gadget, which, by the way, of course, the sidebar and the gadget were introduced in Vista. For example, this is the autumn leaves one. And of course, in Vista, you didn't have Windows Photo Viewer, you had the Photo Gallery. So, Windows 7, even if you download the Windows Live Photo Gallery, you can still have two different photo applications at the same time, your Photo Viewer and your Photo Gallery. Whereas in Vista, it was all confined to one. Let's look at the properties and let's look at the resolution. Okay, well, it's right there. Which resolution is not very high on this one. It's 1024 by 768, which is not even the full resolution of this monitor right now. You can see how it pixelates real quickly. Let's just see, for example, let's look at Forest. I think, yeah, all of these are 1024 by 768. These are just the sample pictures. But also, see if I can navigate and find the actual desktop backgrounds. So first, we'll look at them with personalization. And of course, the Windows wallpapers, you had a bunch of them in Vista. And a bunch of pretty ones too. A lot of which I don't think were released with Windows 7. They may have, or I know Windows 7 got a bunch of new ones, but Vista had a lot of nice wallpapers with it. I'll be honest with you, it really, really did. So you have all your different genres, I guess you can say. You got your black and white, your light auras, paintings, textures, vistas, widescreen. You had some widescreen ones, but you had a lot more of the 4x3 ones as well, because widescreen monitors were still kind of new at the time. Yeah, back in 2007, you could still go to the store and buy a 4x3 display, which sadly today 4x3 monitors are almost extinct. You can't find them anywhere easily at all. It's all widescreen, and while I do like widescreen monitors, but I still have a preference for 4x3. Anyways, see if I can navigate to where these files are stored. It's been a little while, but I'm going to see if I can figure it out here. Okay, so it's in C, Windows, Web, Wallpapers. And there we go. Wish I had these already stored on my... I actually already have a copy of these already as it is, but let's just see, for example. Now, the resolutions on these are much higher. They may not be as high as a lot of newer displays out there these days, like 4K, but like for example, this is a over 1080p image right here of this widescreen image of this beach, which of course a lot of people have seen the Windows XP style image. I've seen it a lot, and interesting to see the newer replacement, which I like both actually, and I would love to be there right now. Be a very nice place to be right now. Considering how cold it's been this week, unseasonably cold. Yeah, Vista came with so many beautiful images. Not saying Windows 7 and newer versions haven't, but it's a painting there. Probably one of my most favorite ones of Vista right there. Yeah. And the resolution on that one is 1920 by 1440. Pretty good size. Yeah, a lot of beautiful images in Vista. Let's see, for example, if I can find some in Windows 10 to look at. Let's say, for example, these are just some that come in Windows 10. Empty. A lot of empty folders here. That's really. When you look at it first, you're like, oh, there's a huge selection, but yeah, maybe not. And there's the Windows 10 image. Yeah, Windows 10 does have some good ones, but I think some of these might be carryover. I don't know for sure. Every version of Windows seems to have its own unique package of wallpapers, but I do have to say Vista had a pretty nice little collection, maybe for its time, and yeah. That's a pretty one there. Anyways, one more. Okay. Let's go move on to a couple more things before we wrap this up. Web browsers. And of course, Chrome, the highest version supported is, let's see, 49. This computer will no longer receive Google Chrome updates because Windows XP and Vista are no longer supported. Yeah, what it was is not too awful long ago, I think a couple of years ago, Google decided to support both. They had to release one version of Chrome for both XP and Vista. So while XP was no longer supported by Microsoft, Vista still has support until next month. But Google just pretty much just left you out to dry. I'm saying just left you out outside, outside in the cold, because you're not getting updates on this anymore. You can definitely tell this is this is definitely an older version of Chrome. So if you're still using Vista, you want to use Firefox, because Firefox still has support until I think September of this year for both XP and Vista. So this is, I don't know if this is even the latest version or not, but I recently did updates on this, but we're at Firefox. Yeah, I see there's an update available. This is Firefox 47. And we'll let this apply an update. We'll take one more look at the gadgets. Now, I think with the hotfix, the weather gadget quit working. Well, actually, yeah, they just Microsoft. If you weren't aware of it, Microsoft quit supporting the currency and weather gadgets due to security reasons. So these gadgets are pretty much dead already. They don't work anymore. And what's funny, on the first time you close a gadget, you get prompted, do you want to close this gadget? But the second time around, say for example, service not available, I can close it without even getting a prompt. Yeah, gadgets, back in their time where to compete with Apple's thing of widgets. That's what they were really there to do, was to compete with Apple's equivalent. Um, and I think Microsoft's envision way back then was to give you a essentially like what the Windows Store is today with all the different apps. You sort of like what gadgets were back in their time a decade ago. Um, but in Windows 7, they started to get phased out over time, and by the time Windows 8 came around, gadgets were history. I'm going to close this out. Restart Firefox and see what version we have. But as you notice so far, that the thing about Vista, it got criticized for it got criticized for being slow and unresponsive and things like that. But Vista, over the time, over the years, particularly with the release of Service Pack 2, has been a much better. It's much more stable, and on a decent computer, it's snappy. I mean, you give Vista a good computer, and it will run decently well. And a lot of people, well, I don't know if I know about a lot of people, but there are some people out there who seem to prefer Vista because of having so many features. The ultimate extras, the dream scene, it's all that stuff. And this is information from Mozilla about, Firefox will soon be unsupported on Vista. But at least Mozilla has went over and beyond, to support these operating systems after Microsoft quit supporting them, unlike Google, where they quit supporting Chrome, I think a year at least before Microsoft quit supporting the operating system. Anyways, I think we're about finished here. Not really too much more to cover. I'm just trying to think of anything else I can think of. Oh, another thing I meant to talk about. In Windows Vista, you have your error peak, but it's not like it is in Windows 7 and later. In Windows 7, they vastly improved this, and of course, they also introduced the Aero Snap, which the snap got improved. Definitely got improved in Windows 10. But it's Vista is soon going to be history in regards to being supported by Microsoft. It is definitely a unique operating system in a way, considering what it is and what it was. It was just that halfway mark between XP and 7. Vista introduced a whole lot of new things. Again, we'll go and look again. Control panel, like parental controls, for example. You could assign a whole lot of different things to, let's say, a child's account. Like, for example, like what times they can log on, when they can access the internet, and things like that. I'm sure. And also, you could limit what they could and could not access with games, game ratings and such. Yeah, Vista had a pretty nice games view. In which we need to go and look at the Windows Experience Index thing here shortly as well. You can see you have your ratings for each game. So parental controls enabled you to be able to not allow your child to access games that were, let's say, rated teen or mature or things like that. Anyways, I'm going to close this out. Yeah, let's look at performance information and tools. In Windows Vista, they released Windows Experience Index, which what it did was it would rate your computer based on how 5 different components performed, being your processor, your memory, your graphics, gaming graphics, and your primary hard disk, which back then the score started at 1.0 and capped out at 5.9. And in Windows 7, it was capped out at 7.9. In Windows 8, I think it was 9.9. Yeah, guys, in Windows 8, if you didn't remember, Windows 8 actually had Windows Experience Index, and technically Windows 10 has it too. It's just hidden. The UI for it is hidden. For example, when I streamed in Windows Media Center and ran a Digital Cable Advisor, it actually uses WinSat, that's what it's actually called. It's WinSat, to rate the machine, and it might still be there. I don't know if it is or not. Here we go. If I open up games, which is empty right now because I hadn't reinstalled the Windows games, see current system score 6.9. Now you can't actually go and look at these scores, but you can see the current system score. Now I think you can actually look at a configuration file and see what the different components rate at. But yeah, Windows Experience Index is still alive in Windows 10. It's just not really, you can't really see it. Yeah, look at there. 6.9 is what the mid-tower lux rates in Windows Experience Index. And I think the SSD is actually the lowest. No, I'm sorry, the lowest point. No, actually, no, the gaming graphics or graphics. I don't remember. Anyways, Windows Experience Index was introduced in Windows Vista, and wasn't the most accurate thing, but it would show the end user how their computer ranks in performance compared to others. You could look at the score, and you could see where you could improve on your computer's performance and things like that. And of course, a lot of laptops, I'm sure, probably scored within the 2.0 to 3.0 range. This is scoring a 4.4 because it's just a virtual machine, but which I think that's actually pretty impressive for a virtual machine. Anyways, I think it's time to go ahead and wrap this up. So yeah, April 11th, 2017 will be the end of an operating system that was pretty special. It was heavily criticized, but it was pretty special in a way as well. I noticed, and yeah, I know this video has been all over the place, and I apologize about that, but that is a look at Windows Vista and what it had to offer. So we'll go ahead and shut down. Goodbye with Windows Vista. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Hey everybody. I sure hope you guys enjoyed this video from Q Computer Channel. Remember to like the video, subscribe to Q Computer Channel for more updates, and remember to tick the bell so that way you actually get notified of these updates. Did you know that I am also on a second channel that's CubeComp MTDX? Over there you'll find videos of bicycling, weather, elevators, and all sorts of other neat and interesting stuff. Feel free to subscribe to that channel as well. And again, I thank you for your support, and thanks for watching this video.